Hey, this is Sharon Raji Maynard, and this is my new podcast, Gazelles and the Phoenix. So why gazelles and the phoenix? Well, there's an old quote that says, I'm going to stop focusing on the dinosaurs, just let them die. Instead, I'm going to focus on the gazelles. Gazelles are those individual projects and organizations and individuals that are rising up out of the ashes, even before the dinosaurs are gone. So I have had the wonderful experience of meeting a lot of gazelles, being in company of those who are holding space as the phoenix rise from the ashes. So this podcast will be episodes to share with you those individuals, those groups, those ideas. Some of them will come from monthly meetings that are sponsored by the patrons of my other podcast, A Mystic's View. If you're interested in becoming part of that supportive community, go over to patreon.com/A Mystic's View, and there you can get details. We're a growing community. We're committed to a collaborative mindset, and it's a joyful experience. So thank you for those patrons that enable me to do this podcast. And I'm excited to share with you gazelles that are rising up like phoenixes from the ashes. So welcome to our conversation today. I am so honored as the host and representative of the Sacred Ground Academy, a partner with the Deep Roots community who are very committed to expanding, especially the roots of women in what we are doing. And this is called the Deep Roots Conversation, sponsored by my Patreon community. And thank you, Patreon community. So if you all just take a deep breath and sit quietly in your physical body and let that breath bring in energy of all that is possible and move it right down the midline of your body. That breath, awakening power center, the integration of our multidimensional self. And that breath moving right down through the soles of your feet into the roots that you are into Mother Earth. And in your imagination, see that your roots are not alone in that moist, warm, loving environment of resource and love and intelligence, that you are rooted with so many other women. And here we have a strength, that deeper availability of our connections with one another. In this conversation, we meet in the sacred ground of sovereignty, where we know that we are held by Mother Earth, by other sisters in sacred circles. We energize that system as it energizes us today. And in the stability of rootedness within Gaia and energy from all that is through our sun, we are in a time of great expansion, new possibilities, reminding us to expand our capacity to be strong and flexible, to be loving and discerning. We are cocooned in the protocol of the guardian circles of love, of healing, and of discernment of what will expand us grows, and what would and has constricted us is removed. We are here to create and live fearlessly together. So in this circle, we are secured, we are fed, we are loved. Breathe that energy and let it expand in the way that you most need it today. Our circle is set for this day, and so it is. So again, I'm really, really pleased and honored to be able to host this group here to listen to, have conversations with Tryshe Dhevney. And I was made aware of Tryshe, introduced to her by my good friend Cinda Lonsway, who's also on the circle call today. And in talking to Tryshe, like, you know, when you talk to someone who's a new old friend, it's like we had a lot to say, and I had a lot to hear from her. And I saw that she was indeed someone who has experience and wisdom from that experience in relationship, as far as this conversation is concerned, with the power of sound. I've been in the energy healing field myself for over 30 years. And what has really become apparent to me just in the last, I would say, maybe month and a half, is the call for sound, to return sound, you know, in my own personal life and in sound, in my healing work. And when I asked my spiritual team, what is that about? Because I'm hearing it from other people also. And they said, the scars within the emotional body region are needing to be healed. They are being flushed to the surface to be healed. And sound is a very powerful way for that. So I went, whoa, good, because we have Tryshe coming online August 22nd. This is perfect timing. So with all the up rocking and rolling that's going on, the social distancing and the needing to do things in a different way and pivoting quickly, and everything that's happening is divinely ordered. And so is this conversation today. So Tryshe, I want to talk to you and have you talk to us about why are you even in sound healing? Why that path? Any about that you want to share? But I know there's a beginning. There's usually a beginning, something that calls us into a journey, and now it's our heart. So Tryshe, what was that?
Well, thank you for that beautiful, beautiful meditation, Sharon. It is the essence of our roots. It is the web of interconnectedness that happens through sound. So as you were taking us through this delicious environment, I was hearing the sounds of nature. And it's just an odd development in my own psyche. And some of you may hear sound in that way, or may see sound in your own experience. But it's a kind of harmonic blend of all that is. And so as I was preparing for today, the words that kept popping up were allow. How do we allow? And magnetize. Those are the big transitions that sound helps propel us into a new dimension. And certainly we're being slammed, as you said, with much change, a need to transition into a new world, in nothing short of a new world. Yet it starts with me, and so I have to be very mindful of the world I'm reacting to, because if I'm reacting, it's letting me know what part of me is still attached and still very much engaged. And it's not like I want to leapfrog over that visceral experience. I honor it, and I also transition it. I recognize that this is not the truth. This is another hallucination I'm co-creating, and I use my voice and sound to magnetize new energy. So that's what I find sound really does. And, because my story is around health and healing, that wasn't the only positive byproduct of my sound. What started to change was also my neural network. So my brain started to change. The patterns of habitual thoughts started to change. My body started to realign so that I only wanted to eat certain foods. All of this was gradual, but it was complete. It was a total transformation that sound allowed my body to move into synchrony with Mother Nature or Gaia herself. So that's our goal. She is our parent. And we have to remember that we have to return to her to gather the wisdom, to reconnect with that internal wisdom that lives in every cell in our body. So there's our template, the microcosm, macrocosm.
I hear you. I also neglected to note that we're going to listen to you and hear you, and I might interrupt with a few questions myself until maybe about 11:35, and that's when we're going to then have open floor for other questions or conversations. So those of you who are in listening mode right now, that's the way we've got this set up. What drew my attention was you said, that when you hit, I'll use these words, you hit a resonance that was a deceptive resonance. It wasn't truth. Mm-hmm. Something in your life, and you didn't leapfrog over it.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
And yet you got on the other side of it. Yes. So tell us, what were some of the things you did when you recognized what some might call a wall or a sabotage or a block or just something out of sync?
A storyline.
Yes.
An old familiar story.
Yeah. And you didn't leapfrog. So what?
Right.
Why and what?
The first collision I had with the new reality happened during my chemo protocol. And at some point, because I had started to play a little bowl and vocalize, not understanding that there was real magic happening every time I made a sound and worked with my little bowl, I was clueless. And in fact, that might have been the secret, because I was in such a state of non-resistance as a result of making sound that I didn't try to fix a disease that I perceived I was dying of. In fact, it wasn't a perception. I was told, get your affairs in order. But what happened was my body started to instruct me. And what I heard was, don't tell a lie to the body. So I would agree, yes, I feel like crap. just, my hair is falling out. This chemotherapy is draining my life force. I'm feeling weak and tired. And that connective and was so key as a vocalized signature. And I'm in a state of well-being. So I didn't deny what was the feeling state. I also declared the truth. And the truth was, whatever happens, whether I die, whatever, I'm in a state of well-being. And that was the key. So that brought me into yet another realm of recognition that everything I say is part of a signature that informs the physical reality I walk into. Every word I say can either be a prayer or a death knell. If I'm having inner chatter that labels me as something less than what is true, less than what Mother Nature knows to be true. I mean, you can't listen to a bird and say, well, your song isn't quite there yet, or to the tree, if only you would have a limb that goes over here, wouldn't that be great? No, that's not how we operate, but we do with our own selves. And so that key piece, which was so subtle in me, had to change. So gradually sound became the subtle keys that unlocked the resonance in my own body. And through that cellular vitality, I was able to develop new synapses, new neurons. The neurochemicals were starting to change my brain. So when we're talking about sound, we tend to think it's just an auditory stimulation, but it's not. It's neurological, it's circulatory, it's respiratory, it's digestive. Every part of the body is responding to the vibrations of your voice. Mm-hmm. So the language that we speak is also key.
It's like energy is a current.
Yeah.
It's a continuum. Right.
Yes.
And there is no disconnect between the vibrational space we call spiritual or emotional or mental or physical. Right. And so when that sound, which is vibration carries information, mm-hmm. a signature, mm-hmm. and the resonance, it might first impact the ears very physically. Right. And the body might respond very physically, but it doesn't stop there because it is a continuum, and that's what you're saying. And I really want to also point out what you also said. I'm feeling like crap, and yada. It's that and, like you said, is very important. It's like you don't deny this is what is going on here for right now, and this is.
Yeah, this is the truth.
And that
the body knows we're lying.
Yes, it opens the doors rather than makes you stuck in a room of I'm feeling crap.
Right.
Which is then I am crap.
Or yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's important to couch it in a feeling state. Mm-hmm. And also it's an ever evolving state. Mm-hmm. So that I may be feeling tired, weak, out of sorts, and I'm in a state of well-being. I would say that throughout my day, didn't know how well-being would show up because it didn't necessarily stop me from sweating or stop my hair from falling out or stop me from losing weight. But what started happening was the refinement of my own personal vitality, changing not only, as you described, the physical body, but also integrated spirit, emotion, mental, and galactic energies. Mm-hmm. So we start to see how sound is something so expansive that happens immediately, mm-hmm. that is tapping into a wellspring that is far beyond what our human brain can process. This doesn't have the bandwidth to understand what the body knows. So when we're talking about creating health, we're really talking about resonance. So that's what sound does. But most of our voices, because that's the other extraordinary piece, it's your voice your body recognizes as the most supreme, beautiful delivery system of frequency to your body. But most people say, oh, I don't have a very good voice, I don't sing, so we whine about our voices because we've been told to. We've been thinking that, we've been silenced for so many years. So when I work with people, I encourage them to just be with the voice they have, because that's the voice your body longs for. So it's not about having a pretty sound. There is no wrong sound. There is no wrong note in your body. So we're stepping over and transforming all the westernized tuning systems. So for those of you listening who are musicians, who have trained in music theory and have an understanding of musicality, it's time to move beyond that. At least this is my invitation, because your voice, your sound is recognized by your system as the food, a carrier wave of food that is most nutritious for you, and to start using that voice. But most of our voices we've been practicing being silent, being small, I know Cinda has written a fabulous book called Roar, which I love. And it's about opening up the wellspring of your passion and your power, not through volume, but open up the tonality. Because when we open up the tonal spectrum, how round your sound is, you have access to more information. So there's that wonderful, delicious word. And what's in that information? This carries your cellular blueprint. And your cellular blueprint is it carries all the treasures and gifts that each one of us brings forth. Which we will then experience this amazing life. And it's a unique life. Nobody else is like anyone else. So, I can't apply any kind of cookie cutter protocol to anybody's health. I can't prescribe any one particular pitch to somebody because it doesn't exist in universal resonance. Mm-hmm. But what I can teach, and what I do teach, is how to create the sound that is most round, most full, most alive with potential that your voice can carry, that every cell in your body is awakening. And people have often shared that they feel like their cells are glistening, or that there's a conversation all of a sudden, there's movement happening between each cells. Well, that's absolutely true, because all of a sudden, when you start to make sound, you reduce the stress, intercellular fluid starts to flow, your neurons start to communicate back and forth with every other cell. Now you are operating in your power.
There's a quote that I read probably in the 80s when I was first starting to wake up. And it was this: if you have a false signature, you have no identity.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really profound.
Yes. Did you understand that at that time?
I did not. There's a lot of things that I heard in that waking up time that I didn't understand at all, but I knew was important. And I think and I hear people say that even in my classes. I don't know what you're talking about, but I know it's important, and I get it. I know, and I'm understanding it more and more all the time.
Yes.
Because we have lived in survival a lot longer than we give ourselves a pat on the back for having survived, but it has crippled us, and we live in false signatures in many, many fashions. And so it's really interesting to me to hear the impact of sound and just beginning to wake up what would be, like you say, your own song, your own resonance. Now, you started why did you get a singing bowl? What was that about?
Well, who knows? spirit moves us, or I intuitively walked into the gem show in Tucson, intuitively walked into a tent, and the first thing I saw was a display of Tibetan bowls, and I was enchanted. So what brought me to that place? Well, I had been using the tones that I teach as an actor tool for probably 15 years already at that point, not understanding that it was a tool for healing. That didn't occur to me. I thought it was for my young actors. This was a way to have greater connectivity to the emotional lives that we're creating their stories from. So I was primed to have much more intuitive guidance. So that's what brought me into that tent, I believe. And I walked up to a bowl. I saw the gentleman play it. I asked if I could see it and hold it. I started to play the bowl, and within, seconds, the bowl yielded to me. And if any of you have played a Tibetan bowl, they can be a bit of a challenge, just pressure and touch. But this little bowl just yielded to me. And so I brought it home. In fact, at the moment I started to tone, here I was in this tent of people and commerce, and I'm vocalizing with my little bowl in my own little zone. I felt like I was in a red floodlight, and that's all that mattered. I bought the bowl, brought it home. So that's what started it. And I didn't think you could heal, so that was out of the question. I didn't try. But I toned every day because it was like a sound box. I could play it. I was playing the bowl, making sound, weaving sounds in and out of the bowl tones, and just frolicking, really. And then in 4 short months, the doctor tells me that the virus has completely gone. So that got my attention. How did this happen? And I didn't quite question why did this happen, because I didn't feel like I was a medical anomaly. I didn't feel I had any special gifts, and nor was I here to dispense any special information. I just figured anybody can do this. What was it that happened? So I set out on a journey for the last 20 years to uncover what actually happened. And today I understand it to the degree of understanding from a biodynamic point of view. I now know why my body triggered this healing resonance. And it was all because of sound. Mm-hmm. So
it's as you know, I know, and probably many on this call know, we live forward. We live by that intuitive trust. Yeah. And when we look back, that's when we say, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why. And and I also want to put out for those of who might be listening and say, I'm going to give it a shot. I found that there were tools that I was encouraged to use. And when I went to use them, I had an aversion. And the aversion was the indication of my crippling. I had to first heal the rejection of gifts for women in order to embrace the gifts that were mine.
Yes.
Just out there.
Isn't it interesting too, because we do have to listen to ourselves. It's the only, you carry the only template that works for you. Mm-hmm. Nobody else's tool, nobody else's protocol, nobody else's pathway or practice is going to be right for you. It may be a stepping stone along the way, or you may be repelled by it for various reasons, then circle back around. Or you may just realize that's not your path. For instance, I'm not a good meditator. I'm a fidget when I sit. And it doesn't bring me to the thing that I seek. What I found happened with sound is that as I would open my voice, you no longer sing the future and you no longer tone the past. You are only in the present. So here I was experiencing a present moment at one with all. there was no back and forth or up or down. And so the chatter stopped, but also it's a simultaneous expanse of what I know to be true, which is I'm a part of all that is. And it's a very real, tangible, visceral experience, because I feel that in this physical form, the gift here, and I think part of the awakening and of our path is to integrate body, mind, spirit. It doesn't happen in an isolated compartment. We don't do matter and then we do, mind and then we do spirit. It's about integrating all parts of the capacity, the totality of humanity. This is why I understand all the angels, all the disembodieds are fascinated by what we get to do, because we're exploring the world of matter with spirit and with mental awareness. That's a tall order. But sound is the thing that weaves it through.
I want to also point out something you said that I think is worth highlighting here. Mm-hmm. And that is this, that we each have our own path, and our path is what's really important to us. And that is true. I call that the sun path. Mm. But there is a time when we don't know we have a path, when all we know is we're in pain or confusion and frustration, and something sparkles. Mm-hmm. that is somebody else's path in that moment, because I haven't tried anything on. And to have somebody who has tried something on and share it, they are sharing a moon path. And that person can either say, I have all the answers. This is my path. It's your path too. You won't get anywhere else unless you stay on my path. Is something to be discerned as a trap, in my opinion. Someone who is a true teacher guide will always say, you have your own path. So I want to acknowledge that for you, mm-hmm. that your path that you're sharing with us a path that's a moon path for us, because we may not have been on it before. Mm-hmm. But you're also saying, try it on. This is how I've experienced it. And watch for your path. A moon path teacher in integrity will always encourage what's yours. Watch for what's yours. Watch for what's yours, because the power is within you. So I want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have a question, and we're going to open the floor for questions. But one of the questions, I'm just going to let you sit with it, because it's you that's going to decide, because we didn't plan, right? We're watching for what emerges. And one of the questions is, will we be doing some sound experiencing today? So I want you to sit with that. It's a great question. And is there anything else you want to say before we kind of open the floor?
Well, I think the only thing to say is a sound. And I think the questioner is spot on. I think to transition into spoken word questions, I think we should just, for a moment, all express one of the primordial tones that I like to work with, which is the heart center tone. And it's an open ah. Now, typically we have a very small mouth, and we kind of trick our bodies into thinking we're making a big sound. I'm inviting you to put your 3 fingers in your mouth, open that wide, and make a sound that's sort of centered around keep your attention on your heart center, and a mid-range tone. So don't worry about going high or low or matching me, but just a lovely, soft, open tone of ah. So join me. We'll do about 4 of those.
Let me invite, unless you want to change it differently, let me invite anyone who wants to unmute so your sound is in the whole sound picture, but maybe there's somebody who wants to be able to make sound but still needs the privacy of mute. Shall we give them that option?
Well,
What do you
it's a
think?
wonderful option, though the microphones in Zoom cancels out a lot of, because the algorithms are in a little bit of a, they start to scatter. So, but yeah, I'm fine with that. If you feel that you want to join your voice with mine, terrific. If not, just allow your mouth to fall open. And one final thing, breathe if you can through the two lowest ribs in your body. So you expand the two lower ribs into your back. You're literally breathing into your lower lobes. And then you make sound supported, and as you make that sound, you're squeezing the air out of those lower ribs. So there won't be any movement in your chest, because you're actually now dropping the breath down into your belly bowl, your body bowl. So join me for about 4 of these tones. And one more. And keep your attention momentarily on the heart center. And there is an affirmation that goes along with this that I like to say, and it goes like this. I now stand in a place of loving acceptance of myself and others. I forgive. So there is a simple sound meditation that you have just changed the biorhythms of your whole body system. You've released dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. You have calmed and regulated the parasympathetic. You have decreased inflammation. You have improved your memory. You have increased intelligence. And you have created what they call the genius brain, when you've got an alpha, theta brainwave sequencing that moves you into that inspired brain. All of that with just a minute and a half of tone. Not bad for a vowel.
Not bad for a beginning.
Right.
Usually
So I would suggest do this before you go to bed, throughout the day. Now, if you want more of what these tones are, feel free to go to my website, soundshifting.com, and there's a free ebook. It's a gift me button on the homepage. And it's a PDF download that gives you all the tones, all the links to me teaching how to do these tones, and a write-up about what the primordial tones are. So feel free to go to soundshifting.com if you want to know more about these tones. So yes, please ask on.
Okay, so what we're going to do is, if any of you have a question, just unmute yourself. That kind of gives me an alert that somebody wants a question, and raise your hand. And you don't really need to wait for me to call on you. If the space is open, just ask your question, and when you're finished with your question, let us know you're finished. And then Lynn, looks like Cinda has a question.
Hello, Trish.
Oh, sweet sister, how are you?
Oh my God, talk about heart-centered. I'm so attached to you right now, I can hardly breathe. It's so good to see you. Sharon, thank you for this. Thank you, Trish. Oh my God, Trish, so what really just blew my mind, and I've seen you speak, and I've seen you, and I've sung with you in class, and oh my gosh, I've done so much with you and watched. But what came through to me this time was when you said that our essence knows our voice so well that of course the healing has to come through our voice. It has to come through our voice, and that it knows us. So when we are vocalizing, or when we are speaking to ourselves, especially out loud, that our voice is of course going to respond to that. I guess I've never looked at it from that perspective before.
Absolutely. Well, if you think of it in terms of bone conduction, your body, you're making a sound, it's pinging off your nervous system and moving through your bones. But what's happening at a subtle level, at an auric level, is that your body is receiving the direction of how you want to move forward. So this is when you're speaking an affirmation, let's say, but it's the quality of your voice that awakens the wisdom, the knowledge, the grace, the gifts within every cell of your body. And there's no denying that. And you're right, no one else can do that for us. No matter how good the practitioner is or the teacher is, they do not have the skill set and the gift that you have to tune your own human instrument. So I'm so glad you underscored that.
Wow, it was exceptional. And the other thing about your healing journey, Trish, which is, I think, so exceptional, is when you were first diagnosed, you were like, what is going on? I think maybe you were in a meditation or something, and you heard that, well, because you can use this this is your excuse to say no. And
right.
And then in that moment, you realized that you could say no yourself. You didn't need your body to be your no for you. Can you talk about that? Because that's also incredibly profound.
Thanks for reminding me of that. Yeah, I was deep into the effects of chemotherapy, and I was on the couch, laid out, tired, and I asked my cells out loud, why hepatitis C? Why me and why now? And it didn't take but a couple of seconds before an answer appeared, and it's an easy way to say no. And in that moment, I saw it. The saying no for me in that moment was, I was in a situation of trying to leave the work I had done all my life with young people and addiction and alcoholism and touring. And I wanted it to go in another track. I was done with that old track. I didn't know how to step away from it, because I was always being drawn back from my people pleaser element to what's going to happen to the kids, what's going to happen to the world, how am I going to stomp out disease and save lives? And the message was, yours is the only life that needs saving. This is the only life that matters right now. And that to hide behind a disease is a convenient way to say no. So at that moment, it dawned on me, I don't need to hide any longer. So I said out loud, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I felt like something leave my body out through the bay window in the living room. And it was about a week after that, when I had my RNA test, that the doctor said, it's gone. We're not quite sure. But the caveat was, it will come back. You don't get rid of that much viral load and that fast, so it's an accident. It's an anomaly. Don't worry, it will come back. And it never came back. It's been 20 years. Thanks for reminding me of that.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it's so remarkable. And I know there's other questions, but I just have one more thing that I want to say, and that's, I seriously injured my leg a couple years ago in a hiking accident, and I was listening to one of your CDs, just hoping that I could do an overall healing. So even though we have just said that we can and should use our own voice to heal ourselves, I don't want to discount how powerful it was for me to be listening to your CD and your music bowls and your toning with it, that I was lying there just trying to do an overall healing But what happened is my leg felt like it was being electrocuted, just my leg. And I wasn't even focusing on it, but it was vibrating and popping off the bed at a rate that I had no control over it. And I realized in that moment that my body was utilizing your sound that you were making, because your intention was to heal whoever listened to it. And it knew where to send the sound waves somehow in some way. And my leg was just alive with the vibrations that you were sending out in this CD. And I've been with you, and I have felt the heart-centered connection, but I have never, this was the first time I had sat with the intention to heal, and to actually have a physical response to it was crazy. And my leg is completely healed now. So
oh, I'm so happy to hear that. And yes, you know, when you have auditory stimulation, the body is receiving important information. And, you know, those of us who've been on a path and are awakening and becoming more and more conscious, we can absorb that information, and the body will download that information and start to do the reconstruction and re-establish the resonance in the whole body system. So there are codes from those crystal bowl CDs that are, like you said, I had an intention, and I did both of those CDs were done in caves. So there were energy gathering properties inside those caves. And I knew in one of the caves, I was surrounded by the native peoples who inhabited that particular cave. So there was energy, powerful energies that were coming through, and they were guiding the movement of my hands and the vocalizing that I would do. So yes, I'm not surprised, because they knew that whoever would be listening to these CDs would be extracting important information that was exactly what their body wanted. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
So we probably have time for maybe one more question. You can see that we could probably spend a couple of hours here. And so that's the contact information is over in the chat. Does someone else? It looks like Pamela, you're unmuted, so I think you're ready.
Yes. Hello, dear. This is another person who adores you. Another person. Tryshe has been a really beautiful part of the favorite parts of my life. And is a sister and has been so helpful to me. And so I have a question. I'm not sure I know how to really phrase it, but it has to do with the power of what you said about the affirmation, speaking the affirmation, and the body recognizing that information. And it's such a moving story. And yet part of my response was, well, that was also dependent on you receiving that information, that it was about getting a no. And it's always such a blessing when we are able to receive intuitive information. However, I don't know about the rest of you, but during the recent past, I've been in what I have come to call the desert of not knowing, because there's a lot about this period that has thrust me anyway into a very humble place where I realize how much I don't know. And so I guess I want some advice on how to use sound in that place of not knowing, where maybe the intuitive information isn't coming in the same ways that maybe it used to.
Well, beautiful question, and thank you. When I work with tone, I work with all 7 of these primordial tones. Reason for that is that I'm not doing spot cleaning. I'm doing whole body tuning. So I would suggest that Number one, be patient, because your body is reformatting. And this period of reformation is taking us all through the fires of initiation into a new life. So to pause, to just recognize that you're still on track, but every day create sound. And so I would suggest those primordial tones, to do them with regularity. And I'll just run quickly through them, and then you can certainly go to my website. And the affirmations, by the way, that are connected to each of these tones are to be spoken out loud. So you pick one for a day or a week, and after you make the tone, your body is in a highly suggestible, especially your brain, is in a highly suggestible state of brainwave processing. So these spoken words are not only populating the space around you, but they're also being downloaded in your little neural network as little seedlings for new growth, so that you override those old patterns that keep us spinning our wheels in the mud. So the first chakra is the root. And you see I shaped the sound with my mouth and my resonating mouth. The second one is double OH in the second chakra. Oh. The third is right at the base of the sternum, where I'm using the diaphragmatic band to squeeze the sound or squeeze the breath out of my body. So I inhale. And then the fourth one is the heart, which we did. Notice I'm incrementally getting a little higher. Then the throat chakra, triple O. Ooh. Then the fifth chakra, high E. And this sound comes through the sinuses, through the nose and the mouth at the same time. The last chakra, you close off the mouth, so this tone only comes through the nose, and it sounds like this, high M. So each one of those tones has just changed the frequency of every part of my body. So it's really prescriptive sounds that your body will drink in what it needs. It knows what it needs, and it knows where to take it. So those tones are what I would work with to bring you through, carry you through this dark phase of not seeing and not knowing, all the while trusting you are evolving through this, and there's light at the end of this. So that's the deep knowing that sound helps us remember what we know.
Thank you so much. That's a beautiful answer.
I think it also speaks to the fact you're not going to make a mistake. Doesn't matter where you start. Because if you impact this end of the wave, pretty soon it will impact it all. If you start here at that end of the wave, it will impact it all. There is no mistake. You're just in energy. When you are putting that positive in, it's going to impact all of it. So wonderful conversation and time, and what an amazing group that we have here. I really want to applaud all of you for being present to add your energy to what's been created here today. So Trish, although we will have all of your contact information on the Deep Roots site, which I've put in the chat, as well as your site is in the chat. Anything else you want to say as we close, or any other contact information as we close in the last 5 minutes here? And by the way, thank you so much.
A pleasure has
the experiences you went through to get you to this point, so you could share this with us. You didn't come just easy downloads. You walked it. So yes, time's yours. What would you like to say?
Well, I think to remember to take your vitamin S. Do sound every day, whether it's sighing, ah, or whether it's humming while you're chopping carrots, while you're getting into the car, while you're walking around on the street. No one's going to hear you. You most likely, if you're outside, you'll have your mask on. So it's a wonderful way to resequence your brain and help calm the body. But it also is doing all the other magic that sound does. So as far as more information, I think, I have a new Facebook group. It's called The Resounding Body. So join me if you want to be a part of that. My CDs that Cinda mentioned are all on iTunes. They're on Spotify's, Pandora. So you can get them, or you can go to my website and listen to samples. Sounds True you can download them from Sounds True. I have a new book coming out. It's not ready yet. It's ready to go to the publisher. So I'm eagerly awaiting what a date it will be available. But it really goes into depth about what we were discussing here today. So I'm glad that I'm so happy to be here with all of you today. Thank you, Sharon, so much.
Yeah, it's been an honor.